So I'm Constance. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. This is Eric. We work together. My business is Constantly Healthy Counseling and Coaching. And today we're going to talk a little bit. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we have been posting. Is that me? Oh, my dishes. I have a lot of stuff under my desk. We've been posting a lot of things this month on Facebook about mental health awareness, just leaning into different topics. I think last week was inner child work. Oh, there's Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa. Last week was inner child work, getting to understand the little person in you. We're going to do PTSD. We're going to do depression, anxiety. And I'm just trying to reach out on Facebook and give some tips and traits on how to, navigate. Because we know right now the world is hot. It's been hot. We know your market is very hot. I have clients that I deal with in the real estate market that are really struggling. And I get it because they want to not miss a lead, but they also are trying to self-care. And we don't know when the market's going to shift, and we don't want the market to shift, but we don't know if it's going to ebb and flow. Excuse me. And that can cause some anxiety. Do I stay in this? And, if I don't stay in it and I get out, and what if I miss a deal? And so I'm really having to kind of navigate the people in my practice, my clients, on how to really self-care. So the topic of this hour is going to be a little bit of self-care. Hey, Vanessa. I can't hear you.
No sound, not yet.
Hi there.
Oh, hi. Okay,
So glad you're on the
yay.
call
Okay.
today.
Yay. No worries. No worries. Yeah, we're just gonna. I went ahead and recorded it. That way we can kind of post it like we did last time. Are you on your bike? Are you moving around?
Yeah, it looks
No,
like
I was walking down the stairs.
walking.
Because your background is staying
stationary,
solid.
and you're just kind of bouncing like you're dancing in a video. Yeah.
I'm like, is she
screen.
exercising? Like, she's like on her bike. Like, hey. This is Eric. I don't know if you met Eric. He's one of my licensed mental health counselors here. He's kind of like Power Candy. I bring him to presentations because he's brilliant and he just knows so much. Yeah, he's just amazing. So I kind of bring him kind of everywhere I go, and we're
in the amazing business.
Yeah, we're trying to. Yeah. So Eric and I actually co-counsel. We do couples therapy together as well as individual. Eric is certified in addiction, so he has many, many years of dealing with addiction. I work with trauma, so together we kind of have this really cool holistic method that we work. We also have Sydney in our practice. Sydney is a therapist as well. She does, she works with our kids. She's a certified play therapist, as well as a couples therapist, as well as a coach. So she parent coaches, she takes care of the kids. So we kind of like a holistic method here. Eric and I work with couples and individuals. Sydney works with the kids, the parents. We're all trained in everything, but we're a little niche. And then we have Absalon. He's our virtual life coach. We do have a virtual hypnotherapist, April, as well. And then we have Angela, and Angela is coming on to us from Georgia. Right now, she's a life coach, but she'll be dealing with our wounded warriors and our veterans. Like Eric, she is also a retired veteran. So we're going to be bringing back our biofeedback and those kinds of things. So in my practice, we build relationships. So we'll see the parents, grandma, we'll see the kids, we'll see aunt and uncle. So just because you see me doesn't mean your friend can't see me, or your parents or whoever. Even Eric and I, when we're doing couples, we don't have that thing where you have to go to a different practice, or we are more going to be more effective if we can we're going to be more effective if we can see the whole picture. So the more we understand the family, the more we can be leaning in on a deeper level and a much more effective level, if that makes sense. Makes sense? Vanessa, do you have any questions, or you just want me to kind of roll? You tell me where you want me to go.
I mean, I just want you to, come on and talk to the agents, because obviously it's Mental Health Awareness Month of May. And, I know with your practice, how much you've made an impact on, your clients. And I think it's really important for agents, especially to understand that, especially like what you said just a moment ago about, oh my gosh, I can't miss this phone call, and that mental health aspect. And I really have worked with the agents on a work-life presence and making sure that they understand it's important to also have that disconnection time. Yet I find, especially with the newer agents coming on, they feel this enormous pressure not to miss a phone call and not to take time off. And, you know, that can lead to bad habits. And, you know, so I think it's important for them to have, you know, your background in terms of how they can utilize some of the, whatever systems or processes that they can use to have maybe some breathing space, or what might that look like for them so they can schedule that time in every day.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want to start? You
You can start now.
Eric and I play really well. We play well
Well,
off
we
each
do the
other.
co-counseling with couples as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We have this
we play
dynamic.
well
Yeah.
together
In fact, I
in the
invited
sandbox.
I invited
Yeah.
him in this morning. We had a couple in here. I'm like, come in here, help me. Yeah, we have this really cool dynamic of the four of us, especially in that model. So when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to depression, or these things that will trigger when we feel like we have to work harder, or we're pushing and pushing and pushing more. I think what people don't realize is we become less effective, and we become less effective because we're not resting. But the body, because it wants to survive, will be like, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And if we listen to our brain, if we listen to that mechanism, the survival mechanism that always comes first, we would work forever. We would never stop, because the first line of defense in our brain is food, clothing, and shelter, right? So if we are always in that mode, we will never rest, because the brain is stuck there. And if we exercise that part of our brain every day and just listen to our brain, that is where we'll stay stuck. But if we're exercising the relaxation part of our brain and feeding our brain with good food, which means a podcast, which can be prayer, it can be meditation, it can be anything like that, we are going to be more creative, because in a fight, flight, and freeze, in that autonomic system, the system where we have to push, food, clothing, shelter, water, we are not able to be creative, right? So if you're dangling from a cliff, right, and you're surviving, and I lean down the cliff and I go, okay, I've got this really great idea. You're going to be like, I'm sorry, what? I'm like, no, I get this great idea, and you know, it's going to be awesome. And you'll be like, I can't even hear you. Well, you can't hear me because your breathing is shallow. You're in your chest. You're thinking fast. You're feeling fast. Everything is fast. And at those moments, you're going to miss everything around you. So if I go, I know you're dangling from a cliff, but look at the flowers. You're going to be like, oh, she's crazy. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm surviving. So when we're in this place of survival, in this place of fight, flight, and freeze, in this place of pushing, we're going to miss a lot of things around us, which is going to give us and have us expend more and more energy, because we're not utilizing all of our resources. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
You remind me
Yes.
of a quote that goes along the lines of it's the space between the notes that creates the music. So otherwise it's just noise. If it's just note after note, it's just noise all the time. So what's the space between the notes that we have to have, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months? I don't know what it is for each individual when it comes to that, but that's where the beauty is. And as Constance is saying, the creativity can't come when you're angry or fight, flight, or freeze. There's no way that can happen. You're just in that mode of just do this until I get home, or until I hit the bed, or until I can breathe. You know, imagine how people feel like that. They're always up in this place that I got to be on all the time. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you have a balance with whatever that might be. And everybody's balance can be different. I know some people who are sort of, we'll call it high functioning or type A, as to what, you know, kind of people colloquial call it, but they can actually thrive a little bit more when they're busier on some level. And it's not always just being busy to be busy, but they can, like, oh, I can really pay attention to what's going on, and I like that kind of being on. But that's not always the case for everyone. That could be very stressful for other types of people, you know, as we might imagine. It just depends, but they got to have recovery too. I have many friends that are like that, you know, and it's like, when do you get the downtime? Oh, it's when I'm doing these kinds of things. So it just depends on the person and what your interests are, to make that happen throughout the day, or on the weekend, or whenever you have time off, or before you know, get up in the morning and do your day, or, you know, bookend it at the end of the day, whatever makes sense for you. So
Does that make sense? So, and I've so many times I counsel people, and they're stuck, and I start working with them, and we find a baseline. So we start to breathe, we start to get the anxiety down, because the only way the body knows, and this is what people don't understand, anxiety is not diabetes. It's not. I got anxiety. Well, you didn't catch it like a cold. It doesn't work like that. Like the chemicals in the brain are coming from somewhere. And yes, some people need to take supplements, and I get that. Like the brain is just flooding in with, chemicals, and I get that too.
The nervous system is on.
Yeah, when the nervous system is on fire, this is what the way the body's going to be reacting. So in those moments, the only way the body knows, if you're dangling from a cliff or you're sitting on my couch, the only way the body knows, right, is by the breath. So I can have an anxiety attack on my couch. I can have an anxiety attack from a cliff. And the only way the body knows this is through the breath. So if we can breathe and not breathe here, because the body believes when we're here that we're in fight, flight, and freeze. If we start breathing in our chest and these deep breaths, the body goes, okay, we're running from a dinosaur, because this is a very prehistoric, very old mechanism that we don't even need anymore. And so when we're in that place, again, we can't think, and you can't learn and protect at the same time. So you can't learn when you're in that space either. So you're perpetually in this motion. So if you learn to breathe in your belly, I have clients in here, they're at a 10. They walk in my door, I'm at a 10 anxiety. And within 15 minutes, we're at a 2. Well, did we take medication? No. Did we drink? No. Did we have alcohol? No. We didn't do any of those things. We just breathed, and we got in the moment, and we got mindful. Because anxiety means you're in the past or in the future. If you're not in the present moment, then you're full of anxiety.
And the breath brings you in the present.
And the breath brings you into the present. And again, I know people need meds. No thing there. But if you're just doing meds and you're not doing anything else, then the body's not regulating. And I had a doctor show me this one time where, like, if the light is on, let's say this is your anxiety, like the light is on your brain, right? This is your brain. And then you take an anxiety pill.
Yeah.
The light is still on. So sleep is the same way. Like, I'm not sleeping.
Blood pressure is the same
Take
thing.
a sleeping pill.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's okay. But the light is still on, and it's not being taken care of. And I can tell you that I've had people in my office that we start doing to work. And I had one in particular, they were scheduling her for heart surgery. And I don't know, like, but when they did the EKG, nothing. And she's like, the only thing I've been doing is this. So I don't know. And like, I don't know either. It may not be just this, but the breath is so important. And when we are breathing shallow, it makes our blood very acidy, which gives us, we're susceptible to viruses and colds, cancers, those kinds of things. And again, when this happens, when we're breathing in our chest area, all the blood goes into our muscles. And so now it's not in our organs. I know people that have had heart attacks and they're very, very healthy. And you're like, they eat good, they do all these things. Well, they may, but if they're not breathing and they're not getting that stress level down, then it's not nourishing their organs at all. Does that make sense? So I don't know. And I've had people in my room that go, no one's ever explained this to me. They've been dealing with anxiety for their whole life. And I'm like, why would we explain this piece? Like, you have to understand what's happening in the body, right? Again, it's not diabetes. You don't catch it. Like, it builds over time, and it does not run in families. People go, oh, it's genetic. No, it's not. It's not genetic. Our brain chemistry
It's
can
an
be
emotional
genetic.
contagion.
Yeah, emotionally contagious. That makes sense. Yeah, like my whole family's anxious. Well, your whole family doesn't know how to let go or surrender, right? So it doesn't mean like biochemically that I'm destined to have anxiety. It doesn't work like that. And when we have that mindset, it'll stop us. Like, if we think I'm destined to have anxiety, well, then that's going to block the learning.
Self-fulfilling prophecy as well.
Yeah. Then we're fulfilling this piece of, oh, this is my family. It's like, no.
There's nothing I can do about it, or nothing I can change, or I just have to manage it, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. And guys, any questions so far? What we're talking about?
Pretty straightforward.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
I came in just a little late, so I was
Sure.
with somebody else. Were you talking about the type of breathing that should be done? Is it the deep down to the full belly breathing to calm down? Because, or, one time I remember my son getting stitches in his head, and they're like, we're losing mom. And they had, because I just can't stand that stuff. And so they had me bend over and breathe into a bag. is that really necessary, or could I have just really done some deep breathing,
Well, when we're breathing too much, we do lose carbon dioxide, and there is a sleep disorder, which is caused, people go, well, I just can't sleep. And I'm like, well, because you're not breathing during the day. And if we're not breathing during the day, the brain's going to catch up at night. So let's take a sleeping pill. See what happens? So yeah, let me teach you how to breathe. So when you're breathing, if you're breathing in your chest, the body believes that you are running. It believes that you are in your autonomic, which is the fight, flight, and freeze. If we're breathing in our bellies, so people go like, no, don't do that. That's not the way to breathe. You need to breathe in your belly, kind of like the yoga breathing.
It's how babies breathe.
Oh, is it
If you ever
really?
look, oh yeah, you look at it, the belly goes up and down. Yep. We are taught this over time not to go that way. Not that somebody told you not to breathe like that, but it just over time we forget the belly breathing piece. And what you're talking about, you get hypoxia because there's just too much carbon dioxide in there, and that's hyperventilating can cause that because you're not actually getting everything into the cells and then bringing them back out. We kind of know that logically, but we don't always know that as far as an awareness that that's what's going on. I have to pay attention to that too. It's like, okay, I'm getting whatever. I notice it in clients as well when they're kind of getting in this just really shallow, kind of quick breathing. They don't even know what's going on. And we aren't even necessarily talking about anything that, made that get excited, in that way. So it's just, okay, breathing, slowing it down, relaxing, and then their whole body posture kind of sinks in and melts in. But again, it's because they're not feeling safe from whatever it is, whether it's before they came in or they're always used to that, or, there's some sort of, I got to be ready for something or bracing, or this is uncomfortable or vulnerable or risky, what I might be getting into, although physically, and I've said this in the addiction thing, is anyone going to harm you here? Nothing is physically harming. Forget about trauma that might induce those things. I'm just saying overall, this is an emotional, piece that's fragile, or emotional piece that feels it needs rescuing, or emotional threat that somebody's having, or a spiritual threat, right? So how do we actually try and work through the difference between, saber-toothed tiger kind of thing versus, some emotional kind of thing, and how far back does that go? Or am I stepping into something new? Is it novel? Is it, letting go of the unknown or the known and trying to get into the unknown, so, and the courage to step into those, places of discomfort, so it just kind of depends on how that rolls.
Yeah. So we have to be mindful. So again, when you look at our DSM-5, which is our diagnosis book on disorders, a panic attack labeled, this is what the panic attack is. A panic attack is a panic attack about a panic attack about worried about a panic attack. That is our description.
It's self-perpetuating.
Yeah,
it feeds off itself.
Yeah, so it's like that is the diagnosis of a panic attack. So people like, well, I just drive down the road and I had a panic attack and nothing was happening. And I'm like, yeah, because you've been building this for months, or you've been building this for days, or building this for weeks. And we think, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not
And
dealing with it.
it comes out in these areas that have nothing to do with its genesis, typically. Not always, but typically.
Yeah, just kind of like comes out at the most unopportune times.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is why, breathing, and we talked about, breathing in your belly, you breathe 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. So it's almost like you take short breaths in and long seconds out, almost to the point where you're laboring for breath. So getting mindful. And again, mindfulness is driving down the road, blue car, red car, all the time. But people go, I'm going to breathe now. And I tell my clients, please don't breathe now, breathe all day long, and set your watch every 10 minutes to breathe, right? My realtors, I'm not kidding. I'm like every hour. I know they're not going to do it, but I know every 2 hours, maybe every 3 hours, I'll get it. But if I say once a day, it'll be once a week. So I'm like, every 10 minutes, my realtors are like, okay. And if I do get it once an hour, it's worth it. But I have people come in my office and they're like, I'm so different now. Like, I feel so much better.
And some of what you're talking about has those grounding techniques in it. Name 5 objects. What do you smell in here? What are the colors? It can ground you in a place as well. So Do they always work, all of these things? No, but you can try them out. Some things work, tapping, all these other things, over time. Depends on the person and the individual, what they're comfortable with or what works for them. But at least these are some of the techniques or tools that, some people can do that are pretty inexpensive and pretty easy to use. It's just remembering them in the time. It's like, I'm about ready to have it. That's probably the last thing you're remembering or thinking of doing. You're just going to perpetuate. So it's kind of preempting that a little bit. Sometimes it's like, hey, just do it on a regular basis while you're not having one, because it's harder. It's hard to learn to navigate in the middle of the storm. So I got to try and learn on shore before I go out in the storm, so learn it here so that when it happens, I'm a little bit more proactive in it, instead of just jumping into the Super Bowl without ever touching the football,
Yeah.
So.
And Maria just said something. Yeah, the 5 senses, that's also a mindfulness practice. And if your anxiety gets too high, get some ice, literally in a baggie, and put it right on your face, like right from here to here, just pure baggie of ice. And that will, in the moment, make the body think it's diving into a pool, and it will lower everything down. So sometimes when I'm doing trauma work in my room, they have a bag of ice on the back of their neck. We have a freezer full of ice. I'm always grabbing the ice because, again, 0 to 10, 0 is no, you're feeling great, you're no disturbance, 10 being the most disturbing. If you can understand where you are, you can understand what to do. And if my clients are above a 5, they can't hear me because, again, they're in fight, flight, and freeze, or dangling from a cliff, and they're not learning. So what we're learning here is we must regulate, we must breathe, we must get mindful in these moments, or we're not being efficient, and we're not being the realtors that we need to be. We won't be the realtors the way we want to be because we're not able to bring it, right? But again, the brain's going to say, don't stop, keep going. But that's what it's supposed to say. Like, it wants to survive. So when you have to self-soothe these pieces and have this cognitive piece of, nope, I'm going to take 10 minutes. And when you start to do
not
it,
feel guilty
not
about
feel guilty about it, then we'll
or
work through that.
shame,
Or shame.
or expectations.
Yeah. And then some people go, I can't meditate. I just can't get quiet. And I'm like, okay, unless you're a Buddhist in the forest, away from, or not a Buddhist, like a spirit, whatever.
Zen shaman, whatever.
Like, you're in the world. So the monkey mind is part of meditation. So, I just can't get the monkey mind to stop. And I'm like, it's because it's detoxing. Like, the monkey mind's going to happen.
It's racing for some reason because it wants to land on something and it hasn't landed. So who's going to land it? You're going to let the mind land wherever it's going to go, or are you going to take back and be in charge of that a little bit more, at least be paying attention and having an awareness that that's going on, and it's quote unquote not you. And that goes into deeper stuff, but really it's like, okay, why is this happening? We don't have to have any judgment about it. It's like, what do I do in that moment, and not even worry about what it is that it's saying or not saying or doing. I got to have the space to recognize it. It's like, okay, what do I do in that moment when this is going on? Oh yeah, put the ice, or do the 5 things, or whatever these things are in that moment. And then it'll get you into a routine and a practice. It'll also get you feeling that you have skills, you have confidence about it, you have the ability that I can do this, rather than something else is hijacking you or taking you into some other place that I don't know, whenever it's going to stop, that's when it's going to stop. And I just let it do its thing. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Right.
And the body will stop you.
Yeah. Eventually there's going to be a wall that
eventually it will. So meditation, leaning on that a little bit, it can be anything. Like, there's all kinds of apps, there's all kinds of music, there's all kinds of ways to do this. And again, it's 5 minutes, like 10 minutes. And, Tony Robbins, whether you like him or not, he talks about this hour of power, this 20 minutes of, and he says, if you're going to be successful, you must take this time. And, he's interviewed millionaires and people that have done stuff, for years and years and years. Like, his research isn't about him, but all the, the people that he's interviewed that have been highly, highly, highly successful. And what he says is, if you can't take an hour out of your day to take care of you, your business is not going to flourish. Like, it's not going to happen. And so there's all these, these motivations, health, getting your heart in the right place, making sure you're healthy, your anxiety pieces, you want to make sure that, you're being mindful, and, it's a collective thing, and it's just your practice. So you have to find, your sacred space to do this, whatever. If it's your car, it's your car. Like, I have things in the car. Great. Like, again, I work with you guys, I work with my people that are on the go, and never try to go, okay, take an hour. Like, I would never say that. I suggest it, but I'm like, hey, pull on the side of the road, find a tree, have your favorite music, your favorite app, 10 minutes, right?
What's that saying? If you don't take time to be healthy, you're going to have plenty of time to look at your health when you're sick. Does that make sense? So, and I'm not saying I know when that time is for each individual. It's just you have to pay attention and listen to your body and your mind and your spirit or whatever it is. And I think we haven't touched on this word yet, but I think there's a boundaries piece that we have to look at as well. It's like, okay, where are my boundaries with anything? With whether it's another person, with myself, with my sickness or health, my job, taking things on or not taking things on, and knowing what that is and what you can and can't do on some level, and not thinking you're inadequate because of it. You can actually take on, for example, 4 clients, for example, rather than 10, and actually do really good with the 4 rather than maybe getting 6, feeling sick and not feeling good enough about yourself, not getting the 10 or whatever that is, right? So just realizing, quality over quantity on some level. And I understand sometimes there's lean times and then there's bigger times, feast or famine. I get that. And make hay while the hay is there. I get that too. But how long and for how long and how much can you do that? I'm always having to pay attention to that. I do that with Constance all the time. We talk about it, how much time, how much energy, and then I try and figure that out for myself and how it works for her business, our business together, and how I can bring my best self into that so that what I provide is going to give enough to everyone involved, but not where it's too much for myself and now I'm no good for anyone, including myself. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah. So building, and I forgot my business strategist, Ramissa, she's on staff too. Duh. Just came to my brain. She's always coaching me on the whys. Like, why are we doing what we do? Well, I build relationships. So my business, if you look at my business, I built in 2 years, and most people do in 10 years, because I focused on the why. I focused on relationships. I focused on building relationships. And I think my business right now is 95% referrals. And I don't need Google clients. We get them because I'm building a team. Now we're doing the Google clients for the couples, but my main focus in my business was raving fans and very intentional about building relationships. Does that mean that I saw a lot of clients? Or does that mean I really spent time with the clients that I talked to, or did my very, very best to coach them in a way or give them what they needed on every level? And then they went and told 10 friends. So I don't now have to work as hard as I did 2 or 3 years ago because my business is running itself.
And they're doing the work for you for the marketing and branding on some level because she's established that, so. Does
it make sense? So again, meditation, mindfulness. Now we're getting into knowing your why, another piece of self-care, setting boundaries. What do boundaries look like, right? And if I'm a numbers person, right? Am I getting those numbers, or am I getting these value pieces, this relational piece? What's going to serve me? Because I can tell you, I did my internship in a rehabilitation center, and not one elderly person said, I wish I would have worked more. Not one person in that home, not one. And I can tell you the depression medicine in those homes are staggering because their kids aren't coming to visit them. Like, so sad. And, I was just like, but never did I ever hear that. So getting our intention and our mindfulness here to knowing what is my life going to look like. And I do this in my room. If you keep doing this, what is it going to look like in a year, a month, right? 5 years, like, well, yeah, they get this face. I'm like, yeah, if you keep going on this track, this is where you're going to end up. Where's your relationship going to be? Where's your family going to be, right? Where's your business going to be if you stay in this mindset, right? And it brings that a little bit of that awakening. And we need that awakening, that leverage to change, right? If we don't have leverage, we're not going to change. It's not going to happen. If cognitive worked, people would come in my room for one visit and go, I got it. And they would leave, but it doesn't work like that. It's got to come from the emotional center. It's got to come from here. If it doesn't come from here, you're not going to change, right? So the practice that we use, we have people in our rooms that say, I learn more in an hour than 5 years with my therapist, or, because we don't do that. Like, we are very results focused. We're very strength based. We're very, in this place of solution, so you leave our room and I want you to have an aha moment. I want you to have a journal. I want you to,
It's stuff that you can take with you when you
Yes.
leave, rather than, oh, we had a nice
Mhm.
conversation, and those are fine too, but I don't know if that moved the needle. Right. So you had brought up earlier, about the why. There's a saying that says, when you know your why, the how will figure itself out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So rather than, a lot of people are taught, let's do the how, do all of these things, and we don't even know why we're doing it, or how the hell did I get here, when I wasn't even intending to go there, or this is the results that I'm getting. Now, I'm not saying we need to control or can control all of our results or outcomes, but at least the why will keep us going in those ways.
Mhm.
You also brought up something that reminded me of, her name is Bronnie Ware. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she was a nurse for, she wrote a book about the 5 regrets of the dying. And one of the things is, oh, I wish I would have worked more, and what they regretted, the palliative care model. And she just heard these same kind of things over and over again. I didn't connect with my family enough, or whatever it was. Yeah, I can't remember all 5 of them off the top of my head, but it's something that you might look into it. I bring that up every once in a while when people just are going in this model of, if I just get here, if I just get there, if I just have this, and I'm just not enough probably inside, or I have to prove myself to myself or others to get somewhere. Where is that? And when you arrive there, do you feel any better? Most people don't. And then they just have to go to this next stage. And then they're just chasing that over and over and over, rather than, okay, I can go to this stage and it's like, wow, that was cool, or that was good that I got this degree, or I got this license, or I got this thing, and I enjoyed the process on some level, and it was hard. Versus, I just keep getting to, here's $1 million. Now there's 2 million. Now I get 3 PhDs, and now I get fine. You can have those. Are you satisfied? Are you even fulfilled? Or are you just wanting to achieve? Oh, I got my numbers for the month for XYZ company, or I'm the #1 sales top person. Fine. Are you going to stay there? Are you good with that? What were your sacrifices in order to get there and to stay there? And now that you've arrived to this, now they want to push the envelope even more. Stretch goals, as corporations like to call them. It's like, hey, now that you did 1 million, now you got to do 2 million, or whatever the thing is, right? And do you want to do that? Nothing wrong with it. You can go wherever, but is it fulfilling, or is it just some marker to go somewhere? And how do you even feel doing it? And how do you feel after you've gotten it? And how do you feel, even healthy through that? If you are, more power to you. But, is this all a competition, and against what, and again, and for who? Does that make sense?
So yeah, leaning into success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So as we bring in tools, guys, this is the tools we're bringing in. Meditation. It's not like I wash my hair and I get meditative. I'm like, the industry right now is capitalizing on this. The commercials, I'm just like, oh my God, they're killing us. Because this research base on mindfulness, like we couldn't teach it unless it's very research based. So being mindful, those 5 senses, staying in the moment, right, all the time, the breathing in your belly as much as you can, where am I in my body? Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, which means if I don't celebrate my successes, when I get to that place, I'm going to feel like a failure because I'm not celebrating myself. So I tell my clients, I'm like, go get a cupcake, go blow out a candle. I don't care what you do, but make sure that you are celebrating this, or it's just one damn thing after another.
Mhm.
And after a while, that's going to get depressing.
Yeah, our
we're
inbox
gonna
is
feel-
never empty.
Right?
So
We're going to feel depressed,
Yeah.
like it's just going to come. Right. And again, we can do supplements and things to take care of these things, but there are also these physical things that we can also do to make sure. And then one of the things, another saying is, if you stay in your head, you're dead. So my client's like, I think I have ADD. And I'm like, and these doctors just give meds, and God love them, but please go get really, like, I have so many clients that come in. I'm like, please go to a really good psychiatrist. I have 2 in this town that I love. Get evaluated. It should be an hour. Go through, what do you have? She's like, I think I have ADHD. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Well, my kid and this and this, and this is happening. I have
Okay,
20
here's
things
your
happening.
Adderall.
And
Be
she's like,
fine.
I just can't keep up. And I'm like, well, nobody can keep up. Like, that's not normal. We can't keep balls bouncing in our head all day long and not expect one to drop. And it doesn't mean we're ADHD. I'm not saying that's not a diagnosis. If it is, go get an hour, 2 hours of an analysis. It's not a behavior. It's a neurological disorder, not a behavior disorder.
It's an outcropping of anxiety.
Mhm.
There are people who disagree with it, but it's still, for me, that's my own professional opinion, whether it's adult or child.
Yeah,
you
make
know.
sure you're, get your blood checked, get your thyroid can cause this. If your thyroid's wonky, that can cause you to feel anxious. So, so if you're feeling these things and you think you need to do something, do it. Absolutely. But go to someone who's going to take the time with you. Someone's going to take an hour, nice evaluation, so you understand yourself and know that maybe I'm not writing things down. Like, am I journaling? That's an old thing. Journal. I don't like to journal. What does that even mean? I don't like to journal. Like, who says that? Like, well, I don't like to journal either, but I know I feel better when it's done, or in my phone, or use a video, you can delete it. But it's
Some outlet
amazing.
of something.
It's
whatever that
amazing when I
is,
teach my clients to do
express.
this. They're just like, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And they're like, it changed my life. And I'm like, I wouldn't
Pen to
tell you
paper.
this stuff
Yep.
if it wasn't going to change you. And I don't like cookie cutter it, like, just journal.
Here's just a to-do list and you'll be
Right? Just
fine.
do
and,
it.
just because we said so.
Another
thing that comes up for me when you're talking about this is what are we connecting to? Like, it's one thing why, but am I connected to self? Am I connected to others? How am I connecting with others in any capacity? I'm bringing that up. Like, we can lose disconnection with ourselves and others by doing all of these things, right? And it's like, how did I get here? Or why is this happening? Or how come I don't feel good? Or I'm always tired, or I can't get sleep, or whatever. What am I connecting to and why? Do you have to be that philosophical or that deep into everything? Not necessarily, but all I'm saying is that, what are you connected to right now? Just ask yourself that. Just write down 5 things. What you'd like to be connected to, what you really are connected to, and what you think you're connected to are 3 different things. It's like, oh, I believe I am. And then when we do an inventory of these things, are you really or not? Is this a fantasy or not? Is it a hope? Is it a dream? Is it something that you want to go for? That's fine. But, am I missing connections? These things are all signs and messengers or messages telling you, it's like, you know what? I haven't really spent a lot of time with my son in a long time. Well, those are messages. I can keep ignoring it, or whatever, whoever that is. Oh, I haven't called my mom in a while, whatever that is. Listen to that, whether it's the light tapping or something is really knocking, right? It's up to you, but the messages are there. We can squash it. We can say, press on, move on, who cares, or whatever. You got to see what your values are, what your motivators are, and that may have changed over time based on whatever has happened in our lives too. I don't have a mom now, so now it's different in how I look at it. Well, I don't know, but just see what it is for each of your cases on those kinds of things.
Makes sense, guys. So to recap a little bit, like you said, mindfulness, some of the tools here, the breathing is important. Again, making sure that you're staying in the moment, even if we need some ice in those moments to get your body down. If you can monitor it, you can manage it. So 0 to 10, where are you? It's a good place to check in. Again, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So are you celebrating every single house? I know when we got our building, we have a whole floor now. He knows, like, I was like, the check, walking
Yep.
it to the rental, like, because we moved from a little place where we got a whole floor, and I celebrated every step
Brag on
of the
yourself
way.
in a good way.
Yeah, I had the realtor
know?
say, you guys got the building. Like, I celebrated every piece of it. So when I didn't just get here, I was just kind of like, oh,
Next.
now,
Yeah.
we celebrated everything that happened. We had these gatherings, and we all cheers the night that we were here. So again, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to take I love this about my clients.
Honoring.
Yeah, I have vacation next month. I'm like, yeah, next month is 5 weeks away. So let's try to do something every day, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, even if it's for a couple minutes. What are you celebrating every single day? What successes are you celebrating every single day? And are the people around you also celebrating you? Is there people you can celebrate with? Or if you like prayer, people you can pray with, or maybe you like a certain kind of spirituality, is that those people you can, lean into? Again, whatever is your flavor, doesn't matter, but just knowing that you have something, this good food every day, whether it be the Bible, whether it be Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, whatever that is every day. Because again, if you wake up with your own thoughts every single day, you will survive every single day, and you will be anxious and depressed if you're only surviving every single day. Does that make sense? All right, guys. So it's like 5 till. So I just want to see if we had any questions or any comments. Oh,
Yeah, we got a couple chats there, I think. So,
let me see. Oops. Nope. Not what I wanted. No. Let me see. how to do it. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about the 5. Yeah, the 5 senses is really important. Any other questions?
What is the dynamic here, Constance?
No, that's way- that was way
That's
ahead.
way ahead. Okay.
Yeah. And again, my practice is Constantly Healthy Counseling and Coaching. You can always look us up on the web,
Sorry, what was it? What's the name
Yeah.
of it?
It's Constantly Healthy Counseling and
Oh,
Coaching.
constantly, yeah.
And, yeah. And we have an admin that she takes the calls. We have a staff here. So she kind of matches you to your practitioner. And again, we have life coaching, we have business coaching, couples, because I know this business too is very, very difficult on my couples. I've seen this many, many times in this business.
The one thing that I love about everything that you said is it really does align with what we teach at Keller Williams as well. Because first of all, we start everything with a big why. Not that everyone does it, but that's what we say. And then there was 2 things you said about the boundaries. And this morning I was teaching a class at 9 o'clock and I was telling them what the thieves of productivity are. And one of them was their inability to say no to things, which is a boundary item. And the other thing was poor health habits. And I said to them, not even the big health, just the little health. Are you sleeping? Are you eating breakfast before you start your day? Those kinds of things. So like, I love that you just, kind of, agreed with everything I was talking about this morning, although I don't take my own advice. So thank you.
Yeah. We do the
Listen
same
to
thing.
myself, right?
Yeah, I have a therapist. I have a life coach that life coaches all of us. Like, it's very important. I'm very honest about that. Like, I don't share what I deal with, but I'm like, I know when I'm not okay. And I see my therapist every 2 to 3 weeks, and she's older and she is retired. I see her out of her house because I needed somebody older that was just, had some wisdom and seasoned. She's very successful though. And that was important to me too. I don't want to be, I love my profession, but you can't put food on your table. Not really want you to mentor me. So I wanted to be mentored by someone that had actually made a very successful business out of helping people. And we can do that. And again, knowing your why. The whys are extremely important, and not worrying about the how, because the universe or whatever you believe in can create this much bigger than we can. We just have to be intentional and align with what we want, not what we don't want. Isn't that true too? Like during the day, you're like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want. I'm like, I get my clients in here. I'm like, that's great. They take the feeling without. I feel angry. And they're so quick. Then you're like, what do you want? And they go, like, I give them like a happy wheel, and they're like,
exactly.
I'm like, yeah, we kind of have to know where you want to go. So what do you want? And let's see what's blocking you from going there. But we're very quick to know what we don't want. That's another part of it too. Basically focusing on what you do want, not what you don't want. But I love that companies are doing this more. They're incorporating this self-care piece. Because, back in the day, no one gave a shit. Like, walk over the bodies to the next one. No one cared about cultivating anything. At least in my experiences and some things that I was involved in. But I'm really loving that companies are more bringing this model in, because I think they're realizing that if I have people that are buying into my vision, right, and these people are there, they're going to sell my vision or educate people on my vision. And if they're not healthy, how are they possibly going to be productive in my vision and what I want to create? And nobody profits that way. Nobody does.
Yeah, you need alignment, and when you're misaligned, this is what happens, right? Yeah.
This was terrific. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I would recommend, and maybe you know this already, Keller Williams. One of the things I copied like 50 pages of his quotes. So I think it's Keller is the guy. Very good guy, really good stuff that he had to say years ago. So anyways, reminded me of that. Really good stuff. But
we just all listen to him.
Yes, I think that's our company.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I left my number in the chat. So, feel free to give us a call. Like I said, we have people here. Feel free to check out our website, whatever you need. There's some really fun things on our website too. I made it very interactive. So you can go in, and one of my clients like, I learned so much from your website. I'm like, yeah, because I kind of want you to go and learn. So we never stop learning. So I'm always trying to put things on my website to make sure that we're, staying.
Okay. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah, and she has my number there. Yeah, I put it in the chat there for you guys also. All right, you guys, be healthy.
All right.
And take
Nice
care of
meeting you.
yourselves.
All
Thank
right,
you. Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you, Constance.